add a new paragraph here because you can't get there from here without explaining this first. We almost ignored some really good editing advice that I think would have made things harder for us this week if we had taken it too far. And that was because of the work that we were doing, which was...
We decided that our writing exercise this week, we would both take the same scene and write it, a scene from our book, and we would write that scene from two different characters' perspectives.
And we decided not to coordinate on what would happen in that scene, how the world worked. We just decided, let's each write whatever we think ought to happen from our respective characters' point of view, and then let's compare it tonight and see, let's take the best of what we like from each person's writing and see what we want to incorporate into the final scene. What did you notice as part of the exercise?
So I noticed that as I was writing, it really forced me to get to know the characters a little better and to see what they would notice and how they would react to certain things. Especially since, without trying to spoil this scene at all, there are some characters that know more what's going on than others.
Mm-hmm.
And so trying to figure out how one is going to react to something versus how another is going to react to something. And I think actually writing and being forced to look into your characters' perspectives like that, and being forced to know at least a little bit how the world works to be able to write about it, makes the sticky noting that we're doing of coming up with ideas for our story, it makes that a little bit easier because we're being forced into that world by our writing.
And what I noticed about the writing process, it was really about how I ended up approaching it. We started hands on the keyboard. All right, what am I going to write? And I found myself already pre-editing what I was going to write. So I said, forget it. I'm not going to write in paragraph form. Let me just dump bullet points as if I'm just writing the entire scene in sticky notes. And I ended up needing to move things around as I put the bullet points in there. Well, I can't get to here yet because I need to explain this part first, or she needs to see this before she notices that, or before this person says something. So I ended up almost plotting an outline for the scene as my first draft. And then even as I wrote my second draft, which was really more of a first draft, even that ended up with a lot of placeholders. I keep using the word finally. Let me stop using that word. A little note to myself, or other little placeholders in the text, even in the first draft. And I found I'd have to go back in between and add a new paragraph here because you can't get there from here without explaining this first. She needs to notice this, or she wouldn't have seen that. So I have to go back and change the text. So there's a lot of editing that happened even in just the second draft. And we still have our third and fourth drafts to do more polish, take care of all those little placeholders and notes to self before we share things this evening.
Right. And when I wrote, I didn't do an outline first. I just had a very, very rough idea of what the scene was going to look like. And I'm like, let me just start writing and see what my character notices as I start writing this. And because I took that route, sometimes I follow down a path and realize, wait a minute, this doesn't lead where I want it to go. I need to backtrack and rewrite, reword this, or say something slightly differently, because this isn't actually what he would notice. He would notice this instead in order to get to the place that he needs to get to. And so that leads to kind of that advice that we didn't want to take too far, and that was the not editing while you're writing, because to some extent, at least in what I was writing, if I didn't edit at all, my first draft would not have been good, and I needed to edit in order to facilitate the creativity and get myself a good foundation to write off of for the rest of the scene.
I think you described it earlier. and I experienced the same thing. You start writing this paragraph and you realize, no, this is leading me off in the wrong direction. It's not just that this isn't good enough. It's that it is misdirecting my
Yes.
brain.
Yes.
It feels like you're kind of in this maze, and you realize, no, I took a completely wrong turn. I've got to back up to where I was and now kind of turn into a different direction.
Yes.
So that editing advice, or I'm sorry, the writing advice, don't edit while you're writing. Still good advice, still lots of value there, but I think we could have taken it too far this week. So my question to you is, I would love to see in the comments, what is a piece of writing advice that you can think of that makes sense in a lot of contexts, but is also easy to take too far? Look forward to hearing what you have to say, and we will see you next week.